Okay, so this is the Reinventing Democracy YouTube channel, and today I'm really fortunate to have Tom Atlee here with us. And Tom is somebody who I've known for a while through his writings. I read his book, The Tao of Democracy, must have been about 7 or 8 years ago. And not long ago, last year, was on a course with him, which is the Ways to a Wise Democracy course, which was a great introduction to his work that took place online last year. So that was fantastic. So that was the first time I got to meet Tom, not in person, the pixelated version, but so far we're yet to meet in person. But yeah, so it's really great to have you on, Tom. Thanks for joining.
It's fun to be here. Thanks.
And so Tom, just a little bit of an intro to you. You're the founder of the nonprofit organization, the Co-Intelligence Institute, and you've authored 4 books. So the Tao of Democracy, Empowering Public Wisdom, Reflections on Evolutionary Activism, and just recently there's a new book that's just come out that you've written, which is Participatory Sustainability. So in general, just to introduce people to your work it's all about helping communities and societies to self-manage their affairs in a wise way, especially given the face of given the challenges that we face today in the 21st century. And, so there's a lot of people out there that are really feeling dismayed, disheartened, not knowing what they can do when they have a choice to act democratically. What it seems they're presented with is a choice on a ballot paper where they can tick one mediocre choice or another mediocre choice. And a lot of people are often feeling very frustrated with this now and really yearning for something different. And your work has really been about investigating the evolution of democracy and what it could look like in the future, and how we could create, in fact, a wiser democracy. So maybe it'd be great to talk us through a little bit about what wise democracy is, and perhaps it would be interesting for the viewers to hear about your model of a 3-dimension wise democracy, and a really great way that we can use to illustrate that is a new website that Tom's launched, which is called the Wise Democracy Pattern Language. So this is an absolutely vast and amazing piece of work that I thoroughly recommend if you have time to delve into and to look at seriously. So Tom's just about to share that with us. So Tom, so if you could talk us a little bit through what is this 3 dimensions of a wise democracy all about?
Okay. Well, first of all, the 3D is the idea that I've cut democracy, my vision of democracy, into 3 different sections. One has to do with power, one has to do with participation, and one has to do with wisdom. We have a little video here that I can start and stop to explore that together. And I have what's called a Venn diagram, overlapping circles, or in this case, ovals. So we have power up here and participation and wisdom. And overwhelmingly in our current democratic system, power is what we call power over. It's the power to influence, power to control, power to win. All those phenomena show up all over in our democratic system or political system. And most people analyze political systems in terms of the exercise of power. And in the evolution of political systems, democracy can be looked at as a way to control the power dynamics from self-destructing. Concentrations, the famous statement by Lord Acton that all power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. there's a way in which those people who have that kind of power can magnify that kind of power, get more power, use the power to get more power. So there's a dynamic that is corrupting and destructive of the whole system. So having feedback loops and balances where you have different branches of government, you have labor and management, you have one person, one vote, a certain level of answerability, there's a whole election system, all are efforts to keep the power over dynamic in place, but not have it destroy the system. And so in one of the questions that we raise is whether power over is the only kind of power. When you look at people cooperating, it's not a power over, there's a power with. We're working together to create these effects to get certain things done. And then there's a power from among, it's like if you have people talking together and making discoveries together and really hearing each other, there's a sense that there is more potential and more capacity that starts to emerge from the interactions. The whole idea of synergy, that a whole is greater than the sum of its parts. There's a power that comes from interactive, diverse parts. So that's a different kind of power. And we study these different kinds of power. Power from within. Somebody who has real presence, somebody who has real knowledge, somebody who's able to, project themselves into the world at a personal level, or the enlightened master, whatever. There's different forms of power from within. So we explore all these different kinds of power. And that's just a quick overview. There are sections here in the website. You can see it says the nature of power there in the drop-down menu. There's a lot of explorations. We actually have, about a dozen different forms of power being analyzed there. So we're looking at power over as one way of exercising power, and it's a very potentially problematic way. If it's used to dominate and marginalize and push people aside and shut people up, you are creating energies that are going to get in your way later. There's a resistance. The minorities, you have a majority-minority system, the minorities are going to resist. So it doesn't have a clean forward motion that uses all the different people's perspectives and capacities in dealing with the issues that society deals with. So that's the power dimension, and the overall larger paradigm is a more holistic, interconnected kind of understanding of what's going on and what needs to go on. The idea that if we collaborate with the world around us, we will learn more, we will gain more capacity to do things rather than trying to dominate it. Rather than thinking of ourselves as separate, we are just members of a larger engagement that's going on, a larger dance, a larger game. And how can we empower the whole system to achieve what the whole system wants, is sort of the inquiry that we carry. So let's look at the second part of this, is participation. And that's the capacity to engage lots of different people and perspectives. And in our existing system, participation is, you assume people aren't participating unless they are doing things like voting, demonstrating in the streets, writing to their representative. These actions of citizenship are the forms of participation that are given to us in our society, and it is always within the larger system that participation is being framed. And we, in the Wise Democracy exploration, we're coming from a different perspective. First of all, we think participation is inevitable and intrinsic. We're all participating in what's happening. We couldn't not participate if we tried. The people who don't vote, the people who don't pick up the paper on the side of the street, the people who are acting as if they are apathetic, uninvolved, they're creating a context within which certain things can happen that wouldn't otherwise happen. They are players in the game. There's no such thing as a true bystander in this. So we start from assumption that everybody's participating, and then we look at are we conscious of how we're participating? Do we know that when we're driving our cars, we are impacting the climate of the world? Are we participating consciously, and are we participating in the ways we want? And also, it's not necessarily from a majoritarian perspective, it makes a difference, like in a conversation that's going to have some power, whether it's in the halls of parliament, the legislature, or whether it's in the media, or whether it's on the streets or voting booth or whatever. The more people you have on your side, the better your chance of winning. So there's a certain attention focused on how many people are involved. We have a different take. We're interested in generating wisdom, and our interest is having as many different perspectives, as many different players involved. Our focus is more on diversity and the capacity to use that diversity creatively than on numbers of people involved in the competitive enterprise. We're interested, if we want to deal with an issue, we want to have people who come from different parts of the community, different kinds of people in the community present in the discussion, which is dealing with the issue. If somebody's not present, we're going to overlook something. So we want to have different kinds of people, not necessarily everybody in the community, not necessarily whoever shows up, but real difference. So we're covering the ground, kind of. Similarly, if we're dealing with stakeholders, who are the people who are conflicted in this issue, who are battling with each other? Who are the people who have different kinds of knowledge in it? It's like the stakeholders, everybody who is kind of involved in framing what this issue is and how it plays out. We want that kind of diversity present so that we can cover the ground. And that brings, yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, I'd just like to backtrack there a little bit. So basically, to sum up what you're saying here is that right now, everybody is actually, from the wise democracy perspective, everybody is already participating in the system that we have. However messed up it is right now, it's a kind of an invitation for people to look, well, to what extent am I participating in the way that it's messed up now by my unconscious participation in this system? And I guess that it's inviting the fact that there are maybe a few players who are at the top, or maybe certain elites or experts or powerful people who are consciously participating and calling the shots, means that the whole spectrum of knowledge and wisdom that everybody holds is cut out of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so what the wise democracy perspective is proposing is that we bring in as many different voices as we possibly can to kind of create a kind of jigsaw puzzle, to create a holistic vision, right, of everybody's different views and different perspectives, so that we can build a complete vision that can move us forward in a very kind of wise way that holds a bigger picture about what is beneficial for everyone. So.
Well said. And the participation overlaps with power and overlaps with wisdom, and it's a power point. Let's start at the wisdom point. It's like the more quality participation you have, the more you can engage the right kind of diverse people in the right kind of interactions, the more you will understand that big picture and the wiser your outcomes are going to be. And the more you get the different players involved, the more they're going to buy into the implementation of what's going to happen. And that gives whatever you come out with a level of power. So if the right kind of participation allows you to have effective wisdom that's actually going to have an impact in the world. So we go on to the wisdom dimension, capacity to deal sensibly with challenges. And here again, I think of wisdom as a form of intelligence, where intelligence is our way of seeing what's going on, digesting it into understandings, and having those understandings guide us in what we actually do in the world, and then noticing what happens when we act from our understandings. The reality responds to that. If we're accurate, if our understandings were accurate, then reality tells us, hey, you did good, and what you thought was going to happen is happening. And if we have the wrong understanding, reality goes, nope, you missed on this one, and it's not working, and things are going off the rails. So there's this dance, and then when we learn, we are taking what reality is telling us and changing our understandings and seeing if the next time we can be a little more accurate in what we do, fit better with our environment. Evolution says it's the survival of the fittest. So the more we can understand what's going on and act in realistic ways, the more fit we are to survive. So it's a very grounded, this is very practical. Survival is a very practical issue. And wisdom is like an expansion of that. Like you can do that in a very small way. Here, I'm going to try and get my own self-interest net and exclude all the other reverberations there are from your narrow perspective. Or you can try and expand it and go, how can we take into account what needs to be taken into account for long-term broad benefit, for all the other players involved in the situation, for the future generations, for nature. It's like, how do we, and we can never understand it all. We can never get a perfect understanding, but part of wisdom is doing the best we can, not doing anything that's obviously foolish, not excluding things that obviously we should be, including, and then being responsive, being smart about how we use it, use our understandings, and then noticing what reality is telling us. And that's part of like disturbance. When people are arguing, when there are crises and problems, this is reality telling us there's things we haven't taken into account. Right. So rather than trying to just shut them out, it's like, what do they have to teach us? And how do we have a system, a political system for handling our public affairs? How do we have a system that actually values that and knows how to use it as information so that we can continually evolve our understandings and our actions towards this broad benefit future that the wisdom is designed to deal with? So those are the three pieces, and in our wise democracy theorizing and analysis of various initiatives and ideas, we are looking at, does it help us get there? And our work is largely in the overlaps. We have in our system right now, there's voting and all that. That's a certain participation in power. There's not a whole lot of things designed to ensure the wisdom of the power or the power of any wisdom that exists. And most wisdom doesn't have a highly participatory dimension. And there's an awful lot of participation going on in our systems right now that doesn't have much wisdom at all. But we're interested in expanding these realms of overlap in our work towards a time that is then represented here as these things grow, all of these things grow in tandem, overlap more and more until they are basically indistinguishable. Mm-hmm. We have a wise democracy here where overwhelmingly all power is participatory and wise. All wisdom is wise and is participatory and powerful, and all participation is powerful and wise. So it's like you wouldn't separate these out. They would just be part of the bigger thing, which is the whole community or country or society, whatever, is responding really sensibly over the long haul to whatever's going on, whatever issues they face, whatever dreams and aspirations they have, are all being fed through a larger system. And what does that system look like?